You ever had a gut feeling that something was just wrong? That creeping sense, like the world had tilted a few degrees and you were the only one who noticed. It was a freezing November morning in 2022 when that kind of feeling spread like wildfire across the college town of Moscow, Idaho. 4 University of Idaho students, Chapin, Madison Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, and Xana Kernodle, were found brutally murdered in their off-campus home. No signs of forced entry. No obvious motive. No murder weapon. Just a horror so raw, so savage, it shook even the most seasoned investigators. They were killed in their sleep. At least, that was a theory. And it would take weeks, agonizing, nerve-fraying weeks, before the public even had a name. But the man police would eventually arrest, he had been watching. Not just them, but us, everyone. Following the investigation from the shadows like a predator admiring his own trap. His name is Bryan Kohberger, a 28-year-old PhD student in criminology, a man who studied the very minds of killers, who once posted online about feeling like an empty vessel, who'd spent years trying to understand how it feels to take a life before allegedly doing it himself. But how did a quiet, awkward academic become the prime suspect in one of the most chilling college town massacres in modern American history? What were the signs? Were there clues hidden in plain sight? And just how close did he get to getting away with it? Let's go back. It was Saturday night, November 12, 2022. The small university town of Moscow was winding down from a weekend of parties and football. Kaylee and Madison had spent the evening at a bar called the Corner Club, a local spot they'd been to countless times. They looked happy, laughing, leaning into each other. At 1:30 a.m., they stopped at a food truck. There's video footage, haunting now, of the 2 girls waiting for mac and cheese, smiling, unaware of the hell that would descend just hours later. At the same time, Ethan and Xana were at a fraternity party nearby. The house where all 4 victims lived was only a few blocks from campus. It was a kind of place you'd walk past without a second glance. 2 floors, off a quiet road, with a sliding glass door in the back. But something happened between 3 and 4 a.m. Something terrible. Neighbors would later report nothing. No screams. No crashes. Just silence. When the surviving roommates woke up the next morning, they didn't immediately realize what had happened. It wasn't until noon, almost 9 hours later, that police were called. Inside, officers found a scene that one investigator would later describe as the most gruesome of my career. Blood soaked the walls. The victims had been stabbed multiple times with what police believed was a fixed-blade knife. The level of violence was staggering, suggesting not just murder, but rage, intimacy. But the house wasn't ransacked. Nothing was stolen. The dog, Kaylee's, was unharmed. And one detail chilled police to the core. There were no signs of forced entry, which meant the killer either knew how to get in, or had been let in. With the town now locked in fear, everyone was asking the same question. Who could have done this? For weeks, there was nothing. No suspects. No arrests. No motive. Rumors ran wild. Ex-boyfriends, jealous lovers, drug deals, even serial killers. But investigators were working quietly, meticulously. They had a partial profile. A white Hyundai Elantra seen speeding away from the area that night. Cell phone tower data that placed a device near the crime scene. And, most chilling of all, a single piece of DNA left on the button of a knife she found next to one of the victims. That DNA would crack the case. Through a process called genetic genealogy, investigators traced a sample back to a Pennsylvania family. From there, they zeroed in on a man who had recently driven cross-country from Washington State to his parents' home. A man studying criminal behavior at nearby Washington State University. A man whose car, a white Hyundai Elantra, matched the surveillance footage. His name? Bryan Kohberger. He was arrested in the early hours of December 30th, 2022, over 2,500 miles from the murder scene. But who was Bryan Kohberger? To those who knew him, Bryan was strange, intense, socially awkward. He'd reportedly lost a lot of weight in high school, at one point battling a heroin addiction. He'd later get clean, earn a degree in psychology, and become obsessed with the criminal mind. He was smart, brilliant, even, but unsettling, cold, detached. During his time at WSU, he applied to intern with the local police department, claiming he wanted to help them understand how emotions influence decision-making in crime. He also posted on Reddit, under the handle Criminology_student, asking convicted criminals to participate in a survey. The questions were disturbing. How did you plan your crime? How did you choose your target? What were you thinking before, during, and after? Some would later call it academic curiosity. Others saw it as something darker, a rehearsal. But here's what may be the most unsettling part of all. Kohberger was allegedly stalking the victim for months. His cell phone pinged near the house at least a dozen times before the murders. Once, just a few hours after the killings, his phone was back in the area, almost as if he returned, to relive it. Why? That's a question that still haunts everyone. Was it personal? Was he rejected? Did he fantasize about being the perfect killer, someone who could outsmart the very system he studied? He didn't speak during his arrest. In court, he stood expressionless, entering a plea of not guilty. As of now, he awaits trial. Prosecutors say they will seek the death penalty. And the families? They are left in pieces, grappling with a loss so senseless, so brutal, it defies explanation. They say they want justice. But more than that, they want answers. Why these kids? Why that house? Why him? Maybe the scariest truth is this. Sometimes monsters don't lurk in shadows. Sometimes they're right there in the daylight, quiet, polite, well-read, watching, waiting. And when they strike, they leave behind not just bodies, but 1,000 questions that may never be answered. Because in the case of Bryan Kohberger, the more we learn, the more terrifying the truth becomes.